Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to get a little personal and talk about us.
Thought it might be appropriate to tell you guys a little bit more about who we are, how we got up to this point in choosing to go full-time van life, and a little bit more about our history and our background.
So we'll take you back to the beginning of when we first met.
Which was about 20 years ago. We both lived in the same dorm in college, got to know each other better, started dating, and that's kind of when we both started sharing how much we enjoyed travel and adventure and being in the outdoors.
And we've been adventuring ever since. So before we got into van life, I was working in the pharmaceutical industry for 15 years. I was in the vaccines department, working as a scientist with a team of people for clinical testing.
I spent my career in the financial services industry, both on the insurance side and ultimately left after being a financial advisor.
And then it was about in 2013 that we decided, when we were on a trip to Costa Rica, we had rented a car and we were driving around the country for 2 weeks. And I remember we were on the beach and actually in the ocean in Manuel Antonio. And we started talking about how can we change our lifestyle and have more of this? How can we get more than just a couple weeks of vacation a year and really live our life?
So it was on that beach in Costa Rica where we decided to get serious about figuring out a way that would allow us to travel more than just 2 weeks out of a 52-week year. And we made a plan, and Dre coined the term 5-year plan, which is a time frame that we allotted to start saving our money and accumulating enough where we could quit our jobs completely and travel full time.
So our 5-year plan became a 7-year plan because of a lot of personal reasons. One was due to where I was at with my career and things that I wanted to finish up, projects I was involved in. And also a major reason was because our oldest dog was very much a senior. He was 14 and 15 years old at the time, and we didn't know how well he'd travel in the van at that age, and we really just wanted to be able to care for him in his later years of life.
So the answer to why van life is actually a complicated one. So in order to answer that question, we really have to go back to when we were first traveling together. As any couple does, when vacation time came around, we would buy our plane tickets, we would fly somewhere, we would stay there for a week or two, feel like we didn't have enough time, fly back, and jump right back into the grind. And that was one of the main reasons we were looking for an alternative way to travel. We also used to take dual sport motorcycle trips. We would load them up with our stuff, including tents and gear, and ride for 2 weeks and come back. And it was on one of those trips that Dre was like, I really enjoy this method of travel, but I really need a way to do it that allows us to bring our dogs with us to share in the experience. So that's when the van life idea was born.
So we bought our van 4 years ago. It took us about 3.5 years to actually finish our van build. And over that time, our eldest dog did pass, so now we only have the one dog. As Wiley said, it was really important for us to be able to take our dogs with us on the adventure. We didn't want to leave them at home because they are a bigger part of our family. So the van just made the most sense.
So when we finally pulled the trigger and purchased the van, we had talked it out and made a decision that we were going to build out the van while we continued to work, while we still had incomes and could afford to do all the things we needed to do to get it done without impacting our travel budget.
So we did a very slow van build because at the time we were still trying to hit our goals for our savings and not have any debt from the van. So we had probably one of the slowest van builds ever at 3 years because we were waiting to buy parts to not have to go into any debt for it.
Yeah, we did it right. We paid for the project as we went, and we never sacrificed our savings goal along the way. So we made it a point not to be in a hurry to finish our van. We wanted to take our time and make sure we made the right decisions in terms of what was important to us around the van build. So we actually continued to use it throughout the entire build. Even when it was an empty shell, we took it on a weekend camping trip just to get a feel for what it was like and what kind of space we had. And I think that actually ultimately helped us in the long run, because as we travel in it now, there's not really anything we're looking back on that we regretted doing or wish we did differently.
Yeah, I think that was a really good part of our process because we got to see how much room we had and how open we wanted the floor space to be and how important it was for our dogs to have somewhere to sleep. So how did we know when it was a good time to drop everything and live in a van?
We didn't. It just kind of happened. Actually, it was kind of all when there was a ton going on in our lives. We had just lost our oldest dog.
Yeah, I think when we lost our eldest dog, Malika, that to me really sparked a change and need to move on and do something differently.
COVID had just kind of hit the United States and things were kind of starting to get hot and heavy in relation to that. But in a way, it ended up being a good thing for us because people in New York City were kind of trying to get out, and we were in the suburbs, if you will, and that was a great time to sell the house. We had been thinking about it. We had been doing improvements to it with the intention to sell it all along, and timing-wise, it just felt good. It felt like it was the right time to do it. That's just from that perspective, and then not to mention our careers.
At my job, I was getting a little stagnant. I think everything just kind of aligned perfectly, and when we put the house up for sale, it sold really quick. So it was like, okay, as soon as we get a closing date for the house, let's also put in our 2-week notice. And it was kind of a really quick decision that we made. But as we mentioned before, we had already been saving. We were 2 years past our 5-year plan mark. So at that point, we could have just started this lifestyle at any time.
We were basically both just waiting for some kind of a trigger to signal that it was time.
I think too is we were just getting really burnt out from our commute. We were commuting together most days, but we were still driving an hour each way, and for 15 years of doing that, it was just getting exhausting. And we were living to play on the weekends, so when every weekend we were driving to the Adirondacks or going somewhere to get a little bit of adventure in, but then we'd get home on Sunday night, be exhausted, and then have to go through the whole week of working again and rinse and repeat.
And I think a lot of you watching can relate to that and are living in that situation. So can't emphasize it enough. Set a goal, save for it, and bottom line, make it happen.
Our plans in the next couple of years are to travel around in our van as much as possible. We haven't really seen that much of the United States. When we only had a couple weeks off a year, we were either flying internationally or just going up and down the East Coast. So there's a lot of the West and Midwest that we haven't seen. We also eventually would love to take our van down to Central and South America and have her go all the way down to Patagonia.
So the idea bubble is constantly getting bigger, it's constantly shifting, and it's constantly changing based on everything that we've done, especially over that 7-year period where we were saving. Because we have the KLR 650s that we mentioned, one of the big things that's on my bucket list is to ride it across the country on the Transamerica Trail. So I've been bugging Dre to add that to the list. That's going to be pushed a little bit toward the back of the plans just because we want to make sure if we're going to do that, we're going to do that when we don't have any dogs.
My idea was to get a sidecar, because who doesn't want to bring their dog along?
I don't think anybody else has done that yet, so maybe we'll be the first if we can figure that out. Stay tuned, we'll see.
Yeah, so I can see ourselves doing van life for a very long time. I don't ever want to get rid of my van. I absolutely adore my van. It'll always be a way for us to travel. I'm really into through hiking, so I'd like to be able to finally do some longer through hikes and whatever we kind of feel like we want to do. The goal of our channel is to take you along on all of our outdoor adventures.
Hopefully, if you're watching and you're thinking about doing something similar, I hope we inspire you to take the next step.
Thank you for watching, and if you have any questions, comment below.